Hi all, let's make some sourdough bagels together today. I don't know if you've been to the store recently and looked at a list of ingredients on the bagels that they're selling there, but man oh day. Those lists are getting crazy long and crazy weird to pronounce. So let's make that list short, sweet, and simple today. All you need is sourdough starter, water, salt, sugar, and flour. Your choice of flour, of course, it can be all-purpose flour, which is what I will be using. Make sure it's unbleached. And then you could also be using bread flour or fresh milled flour. Anything works, whatever floats your boat. And with this recipe, you won't have all those nasty preservatives in there. If you need to preserve it for longer, throw it in the freezer, and it will just satisfy your body more without all of the gross side effects of all the nasty things that are being put in our food these days. So let's dive into the recipe. Okay, now I've got all my ingredients together. I've got 4 cups or 500 grams of all-purpose flour, and then I have 12 grams or 2 teaspoons of just fine sea salt. I don't know if you can see that. Then I have 2.5 tablespoons of white sugar, which is actually just 32 grams, and then 255 grams of water, or 1¼ cups. And then I also have 170 grams of active bubbly sourdough starter. So you can combine these however you want. You can do it in a bread machine, you can do it just by hand, or you can do it in KitchenAid, whatever you want. I'm going to be doing it by hand. I like kneading by hand. I just like being able to be in control of the dough a little bit better. And yeah, so I will go from there. I will cut to a different camera angle so you can see that.
Alright guys, to start the recipe, I'm going to be combining all of the wet ingredients. So that's going to include the 1¼ cups of water, the 32 grams of sugar, the 12 grams of salt, and then I'm also going to be adding in the 170 grams of active sourdough starter. But first of all, I'm going to just mix up the salt, sugar, and water to combine them until pretty much everything's dissolved. And then I'll get my bubbly active starter here. Look at that and how happy she is. And then I'll measure out 170 grams. So make sure to zero out your scale before that. And look, she passes the float test. That is amazing. So then I'll kind of mix that up a little bit, but I don't know, I feel weird about fully dissolving my sourdough starter in the water. So mix it up, combine it, and then put it all in with that 4 cups of flour that either you have pre-measured, or you could put the flour in on top of the wet ingredients too. Doesn't really matter. Then I mix it up with a spatula. Gets nice and shaggy for me, and I'll dump it out onto the counter as soon as it's kind of combined. And from there, I'm just gonna be kneading with my hands. So I'll leave you guys with a little bit of background music, and you can enjoy watching that process. Hey, popping in to say you do not need to add any extra flour to your dough to get it to not stick to the counter. It should be workable. And then to properly knead, you can see here, you use the push and fold method. So you push it out with your palm, pull it back in with your fingertips. And I kind of like to turn the dough with my other hand, but you don't have to do that. Showing you guys here the smooth texture of the dough. You can tell the gluten's forming really nicely, and I'm gonna see if it passes the window pane test, which it kind of pretty much did. My arms were tired at this point, so I just decided, yep, it passes enough and it's strong enough. So now I'm gonna let it rest on the counter overnight. It's about midnight right now, and then I'll wake up around 8 to take a look at it.
Good morning. I just woke up and I checked on the dough. Look at how happy it is. It has pretty much more than doubled in size. It seems like it will be super easy to work with. So I'm going to shape it into a ball right now, let it rest for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to cut it into 8 equal pieces. I don't know if I mentioned this, but it will be just 8 bagels, not a dozen, and also more than you would probably get from the store in a package, which is usually 5 or 6. So let's get to it.
Okay, from midnight to 8 a.m. in the morning was enough time for my dough to more than double in size, but if yours does not look as happy, then maybe you should give it more time on the counter and watch me pop this bubble in a second. It's so satisfying. Then after I pop it, I'm gonna shape it. Hold on, watch. Oh yeah, okay, that's fun. So I'm gonna shape it into a circle like I said earlier. It's just cupping underneath and tucking it so that it gets nice, strong, and tight. And then depending on the temperature of your home, give it 20 to 30 minutes. I live in the South, so I just gave it 20 and covered it with a damp towel. You guys know what time it is. It's kitchen scale time. So take your whole ball of dough and place it on the scale. My dough ball weighed 1,052 grams. Divide that by 8 because we're getting 8 bagels out of this. And that's 131.5 grams. So round up or round down, doesn't really matter. We're not going to be angry with the 0.5. It's okay. So I just start off by taking 2, and usually one weighs more and one weighs less. And then I take from the one that weighs more and add to the one that weighs less. And I repeat this process with all 8 of the dough balls. Now it's time to shape them into dough balls. So now that they all weigh around the same amount, you just use the same shaping method as you used earlier, but kind of use your fingers instead of your hands and make them into balls. And then we're gonna let these rest again. So they need about an hour to rest before we can fully shape them into a bagel form. Now it's time for my favorite part. We get to poke a hole through the center of all of these. So in order to do that, you're going to just pinch in the center. There's also another way you can shape, which is rolling them out and then sealing together the edges, but I don't really like that way. So poke a hole through the center like you saw right there, and then put both fingers through and go around in a circle with the dough on your fingers. You're gonna wanna make the holes in the center a little larger than you want them to be in the end, because as they proof and cook, the holes will shrink. So repeat this on all of them, and then you'll be ready to let them rest for another hour. They're ready, and this is what they should look like. Next up is boiling the bagels. Might sound weird, but I'll explain why in a second. So first you're gonna need 6 cups of water and then 1 tablespoon of sugar, white or brown, doesn't really matter. I like to use white. And then you're going to bring that to a boil and make sure the sugar is dissolved. I boil my bagels because the process of boiling bagels gelatinizes the starches on the surface of the dough, which this sets the crust. Setting the crust solidifies that outer layer so that when the bagel is in the oven, it doesn't have that much room to rise, so that you have a denser, chewier texture on the inside. And it also solidifies the shape of the bagel so it doesn't change too much during the baking process. The thickness of the crust is also determined during the boiling process, so 30 seconds on each side is plenty for me, but if you like it a little thicker, you can add more time. Then, as soon as I take them out of the water, I add on the toppings and I press them down a little bit to try to get them to stick. Then into a 425-degree oven they go for 20 to 30 minutes. When they're getting golden brown or look good to you, take them out of the oven. Here are my final results from this batch.
Oh, yeah.
Popping in to say that I did not film myself cutting into one of these, but the texture is absolutely textbook on the inside.
Alright guys, I just took the bagels out of the oven. It's really toasty in here in the sweatshirt, but all 8 turned out really, really well. I'm super happy with it. This recipe is so easy. You've got to give it a try. It takes time, but it's a lot of inactive time. You do one step here, rest an hour. You do another step there, rest an hour. The most active time is kneading, but if you have a good machine for that, it's like really easy. And then the other most active step is whenever you're boiling the bagels in the water bath, you're flipping them, doing 30 seconds on each side. So it's just kind of quick, but I'm super stoked with how they turned out. I really hope you give it a try. I'll show you one here. It's hot because it's just fresh out of the oven, but it's also feeling real kind of bouncy, which is fun. The top is perfectly golden brown. The bottom's perfectly golden brown. I have a little bit of like an issue getting the toppings to stick. So if you have any hacks, let me know, because when I go to cut them in half, a lot of them fall off, but they look good for right now. And I did 5 sesame seed bagels, 1 everything but the bagel, and then 2 cheddar cheese ones, which those will be fine. That cheese won't fall off of that. So anyways, I hope you guys give this recipe a try. Thank you for watching and have a good week.